Hi, Algebra 2. This year in class, we're going to be utilizing blended learning, which is going to be different than the traditional lecture style of class. And I just want to talk about first the main reasons that we want to incorporate blended learning this year. First and foremost is flexibility. We don't know what this year is going to bring, and blended learning will allow you flexibility in not only how fast you learn the material, but also which content you choose to cover for each chapter. Secondly, blended learning will allow me to provide you reference material, things that you can go back and rewatch and use to relearn or just review the content. And that brings us to the last one. Not only will that reference material help you be prepared for quizzes, but with blended learning, we'll have checks along the way throughout the chapter that are going to be points where I can help you if you're stuck, or just make sure that you are ready for those quizzes coming up. So here we go. To illustrate how blended learning can be helpful for students, let's look at students A, B, and C. Student A is there for lesson 1 and things are going well. They're there the next day in class for lesson 2. Things are going well. Lesson 3. And now lessons 4 and 5 are building on that foundation we've learned in lessons 1 through 3. Things are going well. When we get to lesson 6, that's going to be some sort of complex problem or a time to apply what they've learned. And student A has got it, right? They've built that foundation with their previous learning and they are ready to go. Student B, he's in class for lesson 1, he's in class for lesson 2, but for some reason or another, absent the day of lesson number 3, and then maybe also absent the day of lesson number 4. They're in class the day for lesson 5, but that's going to be pretty shaky learning because of being absent. And when we get up to lesson 6, that may or may not happen for that student, that understanding. And that's just because they didn't have the foundation built on the previous lessons. Student C, they're in class for lesson 1, in class for lesson 2, they're in class for lesson 3, but it maybe just didn't make quite enough sense that day. And then we go on to lesson 4, and we go on to lesson 5. Those are going good. When we get to lesson 6, again, this may or may not happen for the student, their understanding in lesson 6. But if we could have spent just a little bit more time on lesson 3 and really shored up their understanding there, then they would be good to go on lesson 6, being able to learn or use their knowledge in a new way. And so this is where blended learning can really come into play and be helpful. Because if we can provide that extra time when needed, we can really help build that foundation and build to that deeper understanding and knowledge. Blended learning would also help student B, because even if they're gone, they're going to have access to all the same material and learning that everyone else does when they're in class. And they would also have a little bit more time to fill in these gaps of lessons 3 and 4. Here's how we're going to organize the work that you're going to do in class. For each chapter, you will be given a planner that looks like this, and it is color-coded. The color codes are right there. So if a lesson is listed in red, that is a lesson that you must do. That's a required lesson for the chapter. If a lesson is listed in blue, that's a lesson that you should do to further your understanding or to get more practice with the concept. If a lesson is listed in green, like these down here, those are your aspire to do lessons, meaning that you should be trying to get to the point where you can do those lessons, and these are going to be the ones that often involve a lot more creativity or collecting your own data or applying what you've learned in different ways. And there aren't any listed in this one, but if a lesson is listed in gray, that means it's going to be something that we do as a whole class that day. The due dates listed here are recommended dates that you have those must-do lessons completed by. Notice that there are no dates here for your should-do and aspire-to-do lessons, and that's because, again, those are not required, so you can really complete those at any time before the quiz. The assignments that are listed in Canvas in the modules are listed over on the side, and it's listed as a checklist so that you can check things off as you go. We start out each lesson with a video, and those videos are going to be somewhere in the range of about 6 to 10 minutes. I try to keep them as short as I can. And that's going to be where you get your instruction, and you're going to be doing your notes with those videos. The practice problems come next. Oftentimes those will come from either your book or from Khan Academy. Sometimes we'll have something like a Desmos activity or a 3-act math activity that you'll do next. And again, these are all listed in Canvas in the modules. And then we end each lesson with a mastery check. This is going to be a 1 to 2 question little quiz just to make sure that you've learned what you needed to learn during that lesson. And you could fill in the date here when you've completed that. So again, there is some flexibility in your due dates, but these recommended due dates are meant to help you stay on pace with the unit, because when we get to the end, we're going to be taking our quiz for that chapter, for that section of material, all on the same day. This is a hard and fast deadline right there. So all of that must-do material needs to be done by that date. And if you wanted to complete any should-do or aspire-to-do work, it also needs to be done by that date. The flexibility that this allows you to have as a student is really nice. You're able to see all of your due dates right away at the beginning of the chapter. I'll be honest, sometimes we have to adjust those as a class, and that's okay. But if you know that you're going to be gone, or if you are gone, you have those due dates, you can be working ahead if you need, if you know you're going to be really busy in the next week, or if you're absent, you know what you need to have done by those certain dates. Right now, I'm going to try to answer some questions that you might be having right now. First, why are we trying this? Well, we're trying this so that we can better meet the needs of all students this year in math class. We want to provide some more flexibility, and we want to make sure that everyone understands what needs to be done and when, so that even if you're gone from class for a period of time, you can stay on track with what we're learning in class. The next question is, what will Mrs. Gregerson be doing? If you're getting the bulk of your instruction through those short instructional videos, then what am I doing in class as a teacher? Well, I will be around to help at any point in time. Last year when I started using this with my 8th graders, I was putting on the miles, walking around class, helping students all the time. And it actually provided me more time to give individual help to students than previously in the lecture format of class. The next question is everything going to be digital? And while we are trying to use less paper this year to avoid exchanging papers between myself and students and students and students, I don't foresee everything being digital. I will still provide paper copies of notes that you can use for your own use. And when you complete practice problems from the book, you can definitely do those on paper and then take a picture of your work and upload it to Canvas as we need. Other activities can also be done on paper, and then you can take pictures and upload them. So I don't want you to feel like you have to be doing everything digitally, because sometimes in math, paper and pencil just works better. The last question is, does this mean I don't have homework? And the answer to that is, it all depends. It depends on how well you use your time in class. It depends if you've been absent or unable to work on your math for a while. Or maybe you know that you're going to be missing school coming up in the next few days, so you want to do some homework and work ahead on your math work. So there's lots of different scenarios that come into play there, and it boils down to just being responsible to get your stuff done by those deadlines. Again, you can work ahead a little bit. If you're slightly behind, you can get caught back up. So you have that flexibility, but remember that hard and fast deadline of that quiz date will hold. We'll all take that quiz on the same day. And all right, here we go, off on our endeavor to make class better and improve our learning for everyone.